Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. I'm here to have a quick talk about going in the circles of the roller rink of life. Over the weekend, went roller skating with friends and family. We went up to, I think, Temecula or Murrieta, up to Epic Roller Skate Rink. It was quite a drive, and it was actually a lot of fun. It was very clean and a lot of nice people, and they had yummy food and drinks, and we just had fun. And one of the times I went off the rink to rest because I'm a little out of shape temporarily, to kind of rest and relax a little bit, catch my breath. I noticed that my friend's son was, wobbling about, on the rink. He was not very comfortable roller skating and was having a very, very hard time staying upright and, moving one foot forward and, kind of shifting his weight to figure it out. And we were there for like 3 hours about, and he kept falling and falling and falling, and I just felt so bad for him. But something that, kind of struck me and got my attention is that he kept getting up. And one moment, its phone's ringing. I guess we'll just let it ring. Sorry about that. The good thing about going live is that it's live. There is no photoshopping or editing going on here. Well, he kept falling and getting up and getting up and getting up, no matter how hard he fell or how little time he was spending upright. And another thing that caught my attention was that he didn't complain at all. He didn't complain that he fell. He didn't complain that anything hurt. He wasn't, making excuses at all. He wasn't quitting. He just kept going and going and going and going, and was determined that he was going to roller skate without falling. And he was going to go around that rink no matter how small he was, no matter how wobbly he was, how many times he fell. He just kept going. Oops. So that was pretty awesome to see. This 6-7-year-old little kid, tiny little kid, he just kept going and going and going and didn't let anything stop him. His goal was to skate and not fall, and it took him like 3 hours to figure that out. And finally, near the end of the night, he was able to go around the rink once or twice, and he took a tumble in between those last 2 rounds, but it wasn't a hard tumble. It was just a little tumble, and one of the last times he actually stopped himself from falling completely, so he was very successful. And it made me think, wow, this kid is persistent and wasn't making excuses and just was focused and determined, and he did it. And I was like, wow, to have that determination and to only be just a little boy is amazing. And why can't we all have that focus, that determination of, it doesn't matter how big and small you are, it doesn't matter how skilled you are, or the other people are whizzing by you 100 miles an hour. People are going backwards and they're dancing and they're couple skating. Like, it didn't matter to him what anybody else was doing. All he was focused on was roller skating and getting to the point where he can just go around and not fall. And he did it. And it was awesome because it really inspired me, and it made me kind of feel bad, like, why can't I have that determination? Not just with roller skating, but just apply that determination and focus to everything in your life. Like, imagine what would happen. Imagine what type of job you would get. Imagine what type of relationships you would have. What types of memories you can create with your friends and family. Imagine what type of impact you can make in the world. Imagine what you would discover happening around you and within you by just really getting up every time you fall, acknowledging, okay, I fell, and keep moving forward and doing different things. You know, we took him off the rink and readjusted his skates. We took him off the rink to make sure he drank enough water. We took, you know, everyone kept taking turns going around with him to catch him if we could, because he's really fast actually for being such a little kid. He was really fast and just so determined, and it's like even though he was falling a lot, he literally was just skating circles around us because we just couldn't keep up with his energy and tenacity. And imagine having that type of focus and tenacity and energy into just not just roller skating, but it could apply to anything, to your work, your relationships, your goals, anything that brings you happiness. How would that change? What would change in your life? And just instead of making excuses or giving up or blaming, you know, why things aren't working on this, that, or the other thing, or this person, and instead of not taking personal responsibility, what would change if you experienced a failure, or something just didn't go right, or, you know, things aren't moving as fast as you want them to? How would things change if you're like, you know what, this isn't working and I'm still gonna move forward? You know what, we broke up and it hurts, and I'm still gonna move, you know, I will still be happy. I will be happy. I will move forward, and then in the next relationship, you know, maybe I'll make some changes, or I'll find a different type of person. It's like, oh man, this job isn't paying enough. You know, instead of blaming my boss or, you know, this or that, you know, maybe I could do better work, and maybe I'll get more hours or get a pay raise, or maybe I'll just find another job altogether. And instead of complaining and making the workplace hostile and awkward, I'll just figure it out on myself and move forward for myself and be focused. You know, or maybe it's like, oh, school sucks. I know, because I just experienced this. You know, and not blaming other people, but realizing, what am I doing? Okay, I didn't do so well on that quiz. Let's just say that, for example. What can I do differently so I can do better? Just instead of crying and moaning like, oh my God, I didn't do so well on that quiz, my life is over, you know? And that happens. Sometimes we just have to live through the emotion and to release it, you know? But instead of dwelling and staying in that emotion and staying in those feelings, you know, just say, all right, I went through it, I felt it, you know, what can I do so that I don't feel that again? And move forward, instead of living in, oh my gosh, I didn't do so well on that test, and then you're dwelling in it, you're staying in there, or, oh my God, we broke up, what am I going to do? And when you're staying in those feelings and, you know, throwing the blame around and focusing on the challenge, you're not allowing space and energy for the solution to come. So, you know, that my friend's son, and he could have just thrown a fit and said, I don't want to do this anymore, I suck. And it would have been understandable. He's a young kid. And, you know, nobody would have blamed him, like, oh, you know, they knew, oh, well, he's not really good on skates. Well, he practiced and practiced and kept going and kept going and kept going. And sure enough, he wasn't, you know, gonna be whizzing by on one foot backwards and sideways, but he made it around and he did it, and it was inspiring, and it really was like, made me think, like, what am I, you know, how can I show up differently? How can I, you know, focus in a different way? What can I do to be more like that little boy? And that's the cool thing, when you work on being open-minded and you realize that you don't know everything. You can learn from anyone at any point, in any scenario, sometimes the least likely places will give you the biggest aha moments, the biggest lessons learned. You know, they say sometimes your biggest challenge is your biggest blessing. Like, the worst things that happen to you can be the best things that happen to you, because it leads you down a different path, or, you know, and that's going to be a whole nother talk. But what can we do to have the focus and tenacity of that little boy? Because in life, You know, there's going to be stumbles, and some people stumble more than others, and some people stumble differently. Some people are able to, you know, roller skate backwards, and some people are able to go, you know, on one foot and do all kinds of tricks, and some people can dance, and a lot of people can't do those things, or they can only do a couple of those things, and some people can do all those things, and some people can't even stand up on the skates without falling over and getting bruised. We all experience it differently. When we get on a roller rink, it's different for all of us, you know, but when we fall and we get back up and keep going and going and going, you find that what felt really challenging and took your breath is you find your rhythm in it, and then it doesn't seem so challenging anymore. Like everything in life, you have to practice and hone in your skill to learn, like reading, riding a bike, roller skating, having to drive, learning how to brush your hair, learning how, you know, to tie shoelaces, you know, learning how to weightlift correctly, learning how to paint, all kinds of things. It takes time and practice. Everything takes time and practice. You have to hone, you know, Olympics. Oh, for example, Olympics. How many thousands of hours in any of those sports do those participants practice and hone in on their skill? How many times have they fallen? How many times have they felt frustrated because they weren't doing the record or didn't go as far or as fast or as high or whatever it is, depending on the sport? You know, they spent all that time practicing. And yeah, they got frustrated, and they probably threw fits and were upset and lashed out. But guess what? They kept focused, and they kept realizing what was important. And the fits got, you know, probably diminished and throwing, you know, and decreased in time. And that's why they're in the Olympics, a worldwide stage, the best of the best in the sports. And that's what makes them different than other people, is they are focused and they're determined and they don't make excuses, and they take personal responsibility and accountability for their actions, because in the end, you know, even with Olympic athletes, yeah, they have a team of people and a bunch of people that pour into them and rely on them and help them, but when it comes down to it, they're the only ones that are responsible for the outcome of what they do. And that's in everything in life. You're only responsible for your actions and your attitudes. And when you're able to really control your actions, when you're really able to control your attitude, your actions will change, and so will the outcomes. Like this little boy, he could have thrown a fit and started crying or given up halfway through. But he was determined, and he had an attitude of, I'm going to do this. Just do it, said Nike. And he didn't quit, and he didn't have an attitude and everything, and he had fun, and he got tuckered out at the end of the night and fell asleep. And that's how we should all, you know, strive to be. And, you know, lots of days will be easier than others, and that's okay because we're human, obviously. But how are we, you know, getting on the roller rink of life? It's going to be going in circles and circles, and there's, you know, be bumps in the road, and there'll be fun times and not so fun times. But we should all let the lesson that little boy taught us really lead us into how to show up in situations when things aren't going the way we want them to or how we expected. Just acknowledge, okay, that didn't work. You know, you can have a pity party, just don't unpack and live there. You know, if you need to express your emotions to let them go, you can do so, just don't dwell in it. And then just be like, okay, I'm going to keep moving forward. So, my challenge to you this week is to, when you feel like you want to give up, or things are not going right, or there's a fight in a relationship, there's struggles at your workplace, there's struggles internally for you, at least allow yourself at least one, hopefully every time this happens, but at least one opportunity where you do not throw a fit, You do not throw the blame around and just say, okay, this isn't working. Let me move forward. And see how the outcome changes. See how you feel afterwards. Maybe the outcome doesn't change, but maybe you just feel better because you didn't spend all that extra energy being angry and upset and flustered. Maybe you're just like, okay, it didn't work. Well, that's still a big improvement, is having more energy at the end of whatever it is that you're doing. So that's my challenge to you. If you find yourself in a situation where things are just not going right and you feel like a failure or anything like that, just say, okay, this doesn't work. How can I do it differently, and move forward? And when you do so, please leave a comment below, and I will be happy to respond. And I will also, next week, before the next video, I will show you how I handled the situation. Actually, you know what? I had one today. I had an appointment, and it was a consultation with a communications expert. And I showed up, and I think there was a misunderstanding because I heard that she was on her way, so I was waiting. And then she wasn't there, and it was like 20 minutes later, and I couldn't stay because I had other things to do. But instead of throwing a fit and be like, oh my God, I wasted my morning, I did my hair and makeup, I got up, I made this appointment, I decided to go walk around where I was and ask questions about the facility and the membership fees and things like that. It's like a co-op workspace thing. It's really cool. I'll talk about that another time. But I used that opportunity instead of being like, oh my God, it didn't happen, and this person, didn't schedule me right, whatever. I just said, okay, I'm here. What can I do to be productive while I'm here? And it worked out. Now I got a lot of info, and I left not feeling frustrated. I was a little bummed, but I wasn't totally frustrated. I wasn't angry, and I used it as an opportunity to do something else, like to learn about where I was in the building and the company, and I got some information, and it was very helpful. So that is a way that I decided not to throw a fit and see, okay, what can I do now that I'm here? So it was productive. So that's one way. I don't know if that helps. So I hope that this video inspired you in some way to really think about your actions and how really your attitude does affect your actions, and that affects your outcome. And if you want a different outcome, you got to do different actions. And if you want different actions, you better start with your attitude. All right, guys. My website link is below if you would like information about coaching or body work or have any questions. Thanks, and I will see you later. Bye.